A desperate sacrifice. The ancient space station Helios drifted like a forgotten shadow at the edge of the Cygnus expanse. Once a thriving trade hub, it now served as a refuge for those with nowhere else to go, or those hiding from pasts they couldn't escape. Its corridors echoed with the whispers of desperation, the kind that followed those who had lost everything but their will to survive. Neera pressed her daughter Elora close against her side as they huddled in the shadows of Docking Bay 7. Her luminescent azure skin was dulled with exhaustion, the natural glow of her species faded to almost nothing. Her silver-flecked eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, alert to any threat that might emerge from the poorly lit corridors. "Are you cold, little star?" Neera whispered, adjusting the thin fabric wrapped around Elora's shoulders. "No, mother," Elora replied, though her small frame trembled. At only 8 cycles old, she had never known anything but hardship, yet her golden eyes still held a spark that hadn't been extinguished by their circumstances. Neera's four-fingered hand gently stroked her daughter's crest, the delicate ridge of cartilage that adorned all Azuran's heads. Unlike Neera's fully developed adult crest with its intricate patterns, Elora's was still small, still growing. It would never reach its full glory if they remained here. The docking bay doors hissed open. Neera tensed, pulling Elora deeper into the shadows. A human male strode through, tall and broad-shouldered with a face weathered by years in space. His cargo jacket bore patches from a dozen systems, and the confident way he carried himself spoke of someone who knew how to handle trouble. "Captain Riker Voss," someone called from across the bay. "Your shipment's been delayed. Manifest issue." The human, Riker, let out a colorful string of curses. "This station gets worse every cycle. I'm not waiting another day for bureaucratic nonsense." Neera watched him carefully. Humans were unpredictable, but they could also be compassionate. At least, that's what the stories said. She hadn't seen much evidence of that compassion since she and Elora had been abandoned here after the mining colony collapse. "Mother, I'm hungry," Elora whispered. Neera closed her eyes briefly. They hadn't eaten in 2 days. The nutrition packets she'd bartered for last week had run out, and no one would extend further credit to an Azuran refugee with nothing left to trade. Nothing except herself. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and stepped out from the shadows. "Human," she called softly, her voice carrying the musical lilt characteristic of her species. "Captain. I wish to speak with you." Riker turned, hand instinctively moving toward the blaster at his hip before stopping. His eyes, a storm gray unusual among humans, assessed her quickly. He glanced at Elora, then back to Neera. "I'm not looking for passengers," he said flatly. "I'm not asking to be a passenger." Neera took another step forward, keeping Elora partially behind her. "I'm offering a trade." Riker crossed his arms. "What could you possibly have that I'd want?" "My service," Neera said, her voice steady despite the humiliation burning in her chest. "I am skilled in xenobiology and ship maintenance. I can work. I can." She hesitated, hating the words even as she spoke them. "I can serve you in whatever capacity you require. In exchange, you take my daughter to somewhere safe. Somewhere with food." Elora looked up, confusion and fear crossing her small face. "Mother?" "It's all right, little star," Neera murmured, though it was anything but. Riker's expression darkened. He looked around the docking bay, then gestured for them to follow him toward his ship, a mid-sized cargo vessel that had seen better days but appeared well-maintained. "Inside," he said curtly. "This isn't a conversation for public spaces." The ship's interior was surprisingly warm. The lighting was soft amber rather than the harsh fluorescence of the station. Nira kept Alora close as they followed Riker to what appeared to be a small galley. "Sit," he commanded, pointing to a bench. They sat. Alora pressed against Nira's side, wide-eyed and silent. Riker opened a compartment and pulled out a container. He placed it on the table before them, nutritional rations, the kind used by long-haul cargo crews. "Eat first," he said. "Then we talk." Nira hesitated, suspicious of the unexpected kindness, but Alora's hunger won out. She helped her daughter open one of the packets, guiding her to eat slowly to avoid sickness after days without food. Only when Alora had eaten did Nira take a small portion for herself. Riker watched them, his expression unreadable. When they finished, he collected the empty packets and disposed of them. "Now," he said, leaning against the counter, "let's be clear about what you're proposing." "I told you," Nira said, struggling to maintain her composure. "I'll work for you. Do whatever you ask. In return, my daughter gets safe passage to—" "No," Riker interrupted. His voice was firm but not unkind. "That's not how this works." Nira stiffened, pulling Alora closer. Had she misread him? Was he going to demand more than she could give? "I don't buy people," Riker continued. "And I don't separate families." "Then you won't help us," Nira said, defeat evident in her voice. "I didn't say that." Riker ran a hand through his short, dark hair. "Look, I've seen enough of the galaxy to know when someone's desperate. You're not the first refugee I've encountered, and you won't be the last." He pulled out a small data pad and tapped it several times. "I'm heading to Proxima Station. It's 3 jumps from here, well outside Consortium territory. They need skilled techs, and they don't ask questions about where you came from." Hope flickered in Nira's chest, but she tamped it down. "What would be the cost?" Riker looked at her steadily. "You help with ship maintenance during the journey. Both of you get food, proper quarters, and safe passage. After that, you're free to stay on Proxima or go wherever you want. No other services required." Nira stared at him, searching for deception. "Why would you help us?" Something shifted in Riker's expression, a flash of old pain quickly masked. "Let's just say I know what it's like to be on the wrong side of desperation." He glanced at Alora. "And no child should go hungry because adults can't get their act together." Before Nira could respond, alarms blared from the station's public address system. Riker moved swiftly to a console, checking the readouts. "Security sweep," he muttered. "Looking for unregistered lifeforms. You registered on this station?" Nira's silence was answer enough. "Right," Riker said, moving to the ship's controls. "Decision time. Stay here and take your chances with station security, or come with me, help with my ship, and get your daughter somewhere safe. Your choice, but make it quick." Alora looked up at her mother, golden eyes wide with fear at the blaring alarms. Nira took a deep breath, weighing centuries of caution against the immediate needs of her child. "We'll come with you," she said. Riker nodded once, already initiating launch procedures. "Better strap in. This might get bumpy." As they secured themselves in the passenger seats, Alora whispered, "Is he going to help us, Mother?" Nira watched Riker work, his movements efficient and focused. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she allowed herself to feel something dangerous, hope. "I think he might, little star," she said softly. "I think he might." The ship's engines hummed to life as Riker bypassed station protocols with practiced ease. As they pulled away from Helio Station, Nira stared out the viewport at the decrepit structure that had been their prison for so long. Whatever lay ahead, whether Riker's kindness was genuine or merely a different kind of trap, they were leaving this place behind. For now, that would have to be enough. Finding home among the stars. The Starrunner cut through the darkness of space, leaving Helio Station far behind. Captain Riker Voss kept one eye on the navigation console and another on the long-range scanners. The ship had cleared the station's patrol zone without incident, but experience had taught him that trouble rarely stayed behind. Neera worked silently at the secondary systems panel, her slender azure fingers moving with surprising precision across the unfamiliar controls. Despite her exhaustion, she had insisted on making herself useful immediately. Pride, Riker recognized, the stubborn kind that refused to accept charity without giving something in return. Your ship's atmospheric recyclers are running at 70% efficiency, she observed, not looking up from her work. I could improve that if you have spare filtration components. Riker raised an eyebrow. You know ship systems? I was a maintenance technician on a deep space mining vessel before. Her voice trailed off, and her gaze drifted to where Alora slept, curled up in a makeshift bed Riker had assembled from spare blankets. Before whatever happened that landed you on that station, Riker finished for her. He didn't push for details. Everyone in the outer reaches had stories they preferred not to tell. A soft beep from the scanner interrupted them. Riker frowned, adjusting the settings to confirm what he was seeing. We've got company, he said quietly. Patrol cruiser, heavy class. Consortium registry. Neera's body tensed, her luminescence dimming further, a natural response of her species to fear or stress. They're looking for us? Maybe. Or maybe they're just running standard sweep patterns. Riker's fingers flew across the controls, altering their course subtly, enough to avoid direct contact but not so drastically as to appear evasive. Either way, we don't want their attention. If they scan us, they won't detect you, Riker interrupted, gesturing toward a small device attached to the ship's main sensor array. Biosignature scrambler. Makes everything read as human or cargo. Not exactly legal, but necessary in my line of work. For several tense minutes, they watched the patrol cruiser's trajectory on the scanner. It maintained course, passing within communication range but not deviating to intercept them. Only when it vanished from long-range sensors did Neera's breathing ease. You're used to avoiding authorities, she observed. Riker's mouth quirked in a half-smile. Let's just say I prefer to choose who I deal with. He checked their heading and stood up. We're clear for now. Autopilot can handle things for a while. You should rest. Neera shook her head. I'd rather work. Sleep brings memories. Riker studied her for a moment, recognizing the haunted look in her silver-flecked eyes. Follow me, he said finally. He led her to the engine room, a compact space humming with the core's steady pulse. Opening a maintenance panel, he revealed a tangle of wiring and components that had clearly been jury-rigged more than once. Power distribution system, he explained. Never worked right since I took a hit from raiders near the Viridian Belt. If you're as good as you claim, see what you can do with it. It was a test, but also an opportunity. A chance for her to prove her worth on her own terms rather than through the sacrifice she had originally offered. Neera approached the panel, examining the systems with critical eyes. Without a word, she began to work, rerouting connections and realigning components with the intuitive skill of someone who truly understood ship mechanics. Riker watched her for a moment, then left her to it. He checked on Alora, still sleeping peacefully, before returning to the bridge to plot their next jump. Hours later, as ship's night cycle began, Riker found Neera still working, though her movements had slowed with fatigue. The power systems, however, showed a 15% improvement in efficiency. "You should sleep," he said from the doorway. Neera startled slightly, her crest flaring with surprise before settling. "I'm nearly finished. The ship will still be here tomorrow." He crossed his arms. "I don't need a crew member who collapses from exhaustion." She stiffened at his words, and he realized his mistake immediately. "You're not my crew," he amended quickly. "You're my passenger. Who happens to be very good with engines." The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. "On my world, we have a saying, rest is earned through contribution. On my world, we say, don't fix what isn't broken until you've had some damn sleep." Age. A ghost of a smile touched her lips, the first he'd seen. It transformed her face, bringing life to features that had been mask-like with tension. Just as quickly, it vanished. "I'll rest," she conceded. "After I check on Elora." They walked together through the ship's narrow corridors. As they approached the small cabin where Elora slept, a panicked cry rang out. Neera rushed forward, Riker close behind. Elora thrashed in her sleep, small limbs tangled in the blankets, her golden eyes open but unseeing. "No. Don't take Mother. Please." "Elora, I'm here," Neera said, gathering her daughter into her arms. "I'm here, little star. No one is taking me away." Gradually, Elora's cries subsided as she awakened fully, recognizing her mother's familiar presence. Her gaze darted to Riker, standing awkwardly in the doorway, and fear flashed across her small face. "It's all right," Neera soothed. "Captain Voss is helping us." Riker cleared his throat. "Bad dream?" he asked, his gruff voice gentler than before. Elora nodded, still clinging to her mother. "The bad men came again. The ones with the chains." Riker's expression darkened. He didn't need to ask for clarification. Slavers operated throughout the outer reaches, preying on vulnerable species, especially those with unique abilities or characteristics. The Azurans' natural bioluminescence and aptitude for technology made them particularly valuable targets. "No one's putting chains on either of you," he said, the promise in his voice as solid as steel. "Not while you're on my ship." That night, despite her exhaustion, Neera stayed beside Elora until the child fell back into peaceful sleep. When she finally emerged from the cabin, she found Riker waiting in the corridor, 2 mugs of steaming liquid in his hands. "Synthetic coffee," he explained, offering her one. "Tastes terrible, but it helps." She accepted the mug cautiously, sniffing the unfamiliar beverage before taking a small sip. The bitterness made her crest flare in surprise, drawing a chuckle from Riker. "Should have warned you," he said, leaning against the bulkhead. "It's an acquired taste." They drank in silence for a moment before Riker spoke again. "Those men Elora mentioned. They're the reason you were hiding on Helios." It wasn't a question, but Neera answered anyway. "After the mining colony collapsed, we were evacuated with other survivors. But the transport captain realized what we were, what I could do with ship systems. He contacted a broker." Her voice hardened. "We escaped before the exchange was completed. We've been running ever since." Riker's jaw tightened. "These people, they'll still be looking for you." "The broker lost money. He won't simply forget that." Neera met his gaze steadily. "If you want us to leave at the next port, I understand. You didn't sign up for pursuit." "I've been running from one thing or another most of my life," Riker replied with a shrug. "Might as well make it something worthwhile." Before Neera could respond, an alarm blared from the bridge. Riker was moving instantly, Nira close behind. The scanner showed a ship dropping out of hyperspace directly in their path, a heavily armed vessel with no identification transponder. Unmarked hunter, Riker muttered, his hands flying over the controls. Too well equipped for random pirates. Nira's luminescence dimmed to almost nothing. It's them. The broker's men. The ship's comm system crackled to life. Cargo vessel Starrunner, this is recovery team Talon. You are harboring stolen property. Power down and prepare to be boarded. Riker snorted. Not likely. He engaged the ship's defensive systems, modest by military standards, but better than most civilian vessels. Nira, get Alora to the escape pod. Just in case. She hesitated. I can help. The weapons systems. Your daughter needs you more than I do, Riker cut her off. Go. As Nira rushed to Alora, Riker opened a response channel. Talon, this is Starrunner. There's no property aboard this vessel, stolen or otherwise. Just me and my cargo. Our scans show 3 life forms, Captain, came the cold reply. 2 match Azuran biosignatures. So either you're lying, or my very expensive equipment is malfunctioning. Stand down, or we will disable your vessel. Riker's hands tightened on the controls. The Starrunner was fast, but outgunned. Running meant exposing their engines, the most vulnerable part of the ship. Fighting meant certain defeat. A third option formed in his mind, reckless, but possible. The nearby asteroid field was dense, chaotic, and riddled with electromagnetic disturbances that played havoc with sensors. If he could reach it before they opened fire. He slammed the throttle forward, driving the Starrunner toward the swirling mass of rock and ice. Behind him, he heard Nira return to the bridge. Alora, he asked without looking back. Secure in the pod. Where are we going? Her voice was steady, despite everything. Somewhere they can't follow. The hunter ship fired, a warning shot that flashed past their starboard side. The second barrage struck closer, rattling the Starrunner's shields. They're trying to disable our engines, Nira observed, bracing herself as the ship shuddered. Standard capture protocol. Riker grinned despite the danger. Then let's give them something else to worry about. He plunged the Starrunner into the asteroid field, immediately cutting power to all non-essential systems to minimize their signature. The larger hunter ship hesitated at the field's edge, unwilling to risk their expensive vessel among the unpredictable debris. They're launching pursuit craft, Nira warned, watching the scanner. Smaller vessels. 3 of them. Perfect, Riker muttered. Time for a gambit. He spun toward her. How good are you with manual controls? Good enough. He relinquished the pilot's chair. Keep us moving, but erratically. Don't let them predict our course. While Nira took the controls, Riker moved to the engineering station. His fingers danced across the interface, reprogramming the ship's beacon to broadcast on multiple frequencies simultaneously. What are you doing? Nira asked, expertly weaving the ship between 2 massive asteroids. Creating ghosts, he replied. He detached 3 small emergency beacons from their housing. Each will broadcast our signature. In this field, their sensors won't be able to tell which is the real ship. A decoy strategy, Nira said with newfound respect. The mining vessels used similar tactics against pirates. Great minds, Riker replied with a tight smile. He moved to the airlock. Keep flying. I'll be back. Minutes later, all 3 beacons had been jettisoned in different directions, each programmed to emit the Starrunner's signature. The pursuing craft split up, each following a different trail. Now what? Nira asked as Riker returned to the BR. Now we hide. He pointed to a massive asteroid ahead, its surface riddled with deep crevices. That one. We can power down in one of those canyons. They'll never find us. With practiced precision, Nira guided the ship into a deep fissure in the asteroid's surface. Riker initiated full power down, leaving only life support and minimal sensors active. Darkness enveloped the bridge, broken only by the soft glow of emergency lighting, and Nira's natural bioluminescence, which provided a gentle blue radiance. "Your light," Riker observed. "It's beautiful." Nira looked down at her hands, the patterns of light pulsing with her heartbeat. "On my world, it guides us through the darkest nights." She paused. "I never thought it would make us targets." "Beauty often does," Riker replied quietly. They waited in silence, barely breathing as one of the pursuit craft passed nearby. Its sensors swept the asteroid, but detected nothing through the dense mineral deposits. Eventually, it moved on. Hours passed. Elora joined them on the bridge, curling up in her mother's lap and watching the stars visible through the narrow opening of their hiding place. The pursuit ships continued to search, but with diminishing enthusiasm as their quarry remained elusive. "They're giving up," Riker announced finally, checking the sensors. "The mothership is recalling them." Relief washed over Nira's face. "You saved us." "We saved us," he corrected. "I couldn't have flown through that field like you did." As they powered up the ship, preparing to slip away once their pursuers were truly gone, Elora tugged at Riker's sleeve. "Are we going home now?" she asked innocently. Riker looked at Nira, uncertainty in his eyes for the first time since they'd met. He had promised them passage to Proxima Station, nothing more. Yet somehow, in the span of a few days, these 2 beings had become more than just passengers. "That depends," he said carefully. "Where is home?" Nira met his gaze, the glow of her skin brightening slightly. "Perhaps," she said, her voice soft but no longer defeated, "we are still finding out." Riker smiled, a real smile that reached his storm-gray eyes. "Then I guess we'll keep looking together." As the Starrunner emerged from hiding and set course away from the asteroid field, Riker felt something he hadn't experienced in years, the sensation of moving towards something, rather than just running away. The ship hummed beneath them, stronger now thanks to Nira's skilled repairs, carrying them toward a future none of them could have imagined days earlier. It wasn't safety, not yet. The broker's men would likely try again. But for the first time, Nira and Elora weren't facing that threat alone. Sometimes, Riker thought as he watched Nira point out constellations to her daughter, home wasn't a place at all. Sometimes it was simply the people you'd risk everything to protect.